and welcome. It's Friday night. Do you know where your kids are? If you're my parents, Lacey's parents, Taylor's parents, or Sabrina's parents, you do. Welcome to the Small Group Podcast. I'm Ben with my wonderful wife, Lacey. We are joined here with Taylor and his wonderful wife, Sabrina.
Hi, everyone. Excited to be here.
It's great to have you on.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Really excited to kick this off and hoping we'll have a good conversation about God and good fellowship. It's going to be great.
God and life, and Taylor and I are kind of the nerds, I would say.
Definitely.
I like to say Taylor is the
I
old.
don't see it.
Taylor's the Old Testament to my New Testament.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He's all about the Psalms and the Proverbs, and I'm all about the Greek. So
I don't know how far I would be able to dig, but
a lot more than I can. But luckily we have our wonderful wives to kind of tie us back.
Here's an Old Testament word for you.
To wrangle us in.
Ezer. Do you know this word?
Ezer?
Yeah. It's a great Hebrew word often used to refer to God and his nature, but importantly used in Genesis to refer to Eve as the Ezer of Adam. Often translated as helper, I think it's a bit of a weak translation. It's more like the one who is your steadfast ally that you must have in times of need.
Isn't that, what's the song? Oh man. It's in one of the songs, right?
In one of the Psalms?
Songs that we sing.
Songs.
Oh my goodness, I'm drawing a blank.
Are you thinking Ebenezer?
Ebenezer, that's what I was
Ebenezer.
thinking.
Yeah, no.
Different
Never
word.
mind.
Yeah, this word Ezer in Hebrew is very loaded with meaning, and our wives are our Ezers. We're luckily here with them tonight and not just on the nerd train entirely. So,
Joining us in the audience, by the way, is our wonderful 3-year-old Gabriella.
Shout out Gabby.
She's been the X factor to this. We've been talking about doing this for a long time, and we've been a little hesitant and concerned. What do we do with Gabby? But we're just going to roll with it and make it work. We're all, I think, excited and eager to get going. So tonight's episode is going to be pretty simple. Little get to know you, everybody get kind of comfortable, and not necessarily a full-on bio or testimony, but we will get into those in future episodes. Eventually I'd like to devote a full episode to each person to give their testimony and kind of walk out more of the details of their experiences. But tonight's going to be a little lighter. Like I said, just some basic get to know you questions. If you're listening, and these questions, I think we'll give our answers, but I think they're really important to kind of think on and consider for yourself as well. And by the way, I know we're not, maybe one day we'll do the show live. I know we're not live tonight, but with each episode, shoot us a comment, shoot us a message. You can also send us an email. I'll give you the email here soon. Any questions you have, any topics that you have that you want us to talk about? Obviously, this is going to be more spiritually geared and focused, but we also want to incorporate every once in a while. We won't get too heavy on, current events, but, those things come up and obviously, we've had some stuff just happen in the last year of, events happening and people grappling with how to deal with that spiritually. And so those are some things that we will eventually, talk about and get into. But yeah, any topics that you have, you can send us a message. Any questions you have, you can send us a message. You can also email to Lacey and I's company that we are rolling out. This is part of it, GB&L, or Goat, Bear, and Lobster. Maybe one day in my testimony I'll explain the meaning behind it. But email goat.bear.lobster@gmail.com if you have any questions, and I we'll answer them. If you want to be anonymous, let us know. If you don't, let us know, and we'll give you a shout out. We'll talk about it. So anyway, and we'll get more into future episodes and ideas that we have. But let's get things rolling. First off, how's everybody? I've been bogarting the mic here. Everybody good? We've been catching up off air so much. I feel like maybe we catch up a little bit on air, just fill everybody in. I know Lacey's been busy, like we said, wrangling me and a toddler.
So we just got back from a birthday party, and that was a lot of fun. And yeah, just crazy hectic Friday, but it's been fun.
Busy day.
This
is our Friday nights, guys. Partying it up on the beach.
Yeah, it's been a good Friday. We was low key. I worked from 7 to 4, and then we sat outside and just caught up, Taylor and I, before we headed over here. And this is my first podcast. I'm excited.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is this yours?
Yes, I've live stremed.
Oh, that's right.
Gaming.
Okay. I didn't know if you wanted to go there, but let's go there.
Well, I nerdily will game, and sometimes I've been asked and have done some streaming of that. But yeah, this is the first actual podcast that I've ever been on, so very exciting. Yeah, week's been good. It's been, I think, productive, and we are, we're planning an upcoming youth retreat, which is exciting. Been working on that with church, friends, and family. Yeah, enjoying this season. So.
I feel like I should also add, in the audience, joining us is our dog, Indiana. That's not Lacey grunting and groaning at Taylor. That is our dog. Reminding us he's here. But no, that's great. I know you guys have a lot. We got the Easter. We're in the Easter season. We have Easter rolling up, and you guys have big plans for that as well with the congregation we worship with. Obviously, we worship together with the same congregation, but Taylor Sabrina have kind of led the way on a Bible reading, right? Is that still going? Yeah. Or are we pulling?
Yeah, no.
Is that okay to talk about?
Of course, yeah. I think, people will be finding out more about this church on Sunday. We have had a lot of help and support in our community planning a straight read through of the New Testament. The day before Easter will begin that Saturday, and the plan is to hit Revelation and finish Matthew to Revelation the morning of Easter. So we'll be doing that in our church sanctuary, and we're hoping that after we announce it this weekend, we'll have more people get involved. It's going to be great.
And then those that are going to stay for the whole time, Matthew's probably going to be wondering where everybody's at, our preacher, when he starts talking, because everybody's going to be exhausted.
Right.
But no, it's great stuff. It really is.
We're excited about it. We're praying about it, and we just hope that it will be a time to glorify God, reading his word, which is, as Sabrina aptly put recently, the only real, capital T truth that we can grasp at.
Yeah.
In this life, there's so many voices, and we just want to glorify him by reading his word and spend time in community, encourage people to, if they want to, take a slot and read, or if not, just come listen.
Yeah, I also found myself in past years on Easter, it kind of slipping by and me thinking, oh, I wish that I would have done something more to spend more time with God, to be more intentional about celebrating the resurrection. So I feel like being in his word, his truth, is the perfect way to celebrate Easter.
Yeah, no, and I'm with you. I've felt that so many times where, Easter, that day there's so much going on, so much hype. And I think the older you get, you start to plan ahead a little more and want to capture that moment. But what you guys are doing with the scripture reading, is great, because there's so much pomp and circumstance around Easter as a world holiday, as a, earthly holiday. Bringing scripture back into it and being the focus. And obviously, I'm not poo-pooing on Easter at all, but everybody talks about it. It surrounds the resurrection of Christ, which to me, again, I'm not poo-pooing Easter, but to me, that's something. The birth and death and resurrection of Christ is something I want to celebrate, not just every Sunday, but every day in my life. Having a holiday that really puts it on a pedestal, I think, is not a bad thing. But especially with all that, just like Christmas, you can have all these traditions and other things that bleed into it that kind of dilute the meaning. Bringing Scripture back into it, even if it's all of Scripture or all of the New Testament, which is what you guys are doing, I think is fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. We're excited.
So if it's not Easter yet, you're listening. Easter 2020, 2026. You can email us if you want more information on that. Come join us if you want to participate. But let's try this out. Let's get into it.
All right.
So like I said, we're going to keep it light on this episode tonight. We are just going to go over some just basic questions, just get to know a little bit about each one of us. So let's start it off. What are your favorite or most impactful Bible verses? I would say, what is your, the common question is, what's your favorite Bible verse? But let's be honest, we know each other well enough. I know Taylor well enough, I think, by now to know he's like me. You can't just pick one. Once you pop the fun, don't stop, right?
Yeah, I think, I like to think about this almost as in, like, when I saw this question, the first thing I thought was like, well, okay, if I was really going to force myself to think about verses, both Old and New Testament, I know you earlier were saying
stay in your lane, sir.
Yeah, stay in my lane. I have more of a kind of like short, pithy, like literally one verse Old Testament reference that I go back to a lot, and one slightly longer section of verses in the New Testament, and both of those were the ones that I selected to answer this question, thinking about it before the episode. And
okay.
That's kind of how I conceptualized it. Like, if I were to, one, like pick like truly like a single verse, and two, as well as like something a little more substantial, and then two, to think like Old Testament, New Testament, kind of like where do I go to frequently for like just like a quick, how do I remind myself of some of God's truth,
Psalms or Proverbs.
No.
You're on, I mean.
No, that's me.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Y'all are both good at this, but maybe you've just gotten to me quicker than Sabrina has, because like you're on point with your Psalms.
Hey man.
And Psalms 90. Have you read that? You should go read that. That was really good.
Moses' Psalm. It's a great one. Hit it up. No, yeah, the one I thought of, we have in our home some verses that are framed, and one that I really love is Zephaniah 3:17.
Ooh, deep tracks. Zephaniah.
Yeah, it's one that it's just like short, and it like reminds me of God's truth of like how he sees me and sees his children.
Mm-hmm.
And it also like points, I think, in a really powerful way to God's character and sort of like how he responds to us.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a great one. So I'll
let's hear it.
Yeah, let's hear it. So
I don't have Zephaniah memorized yet.
Yeah. So
are you reciting it from memory?
I think I have it memorized.
Oh.
Yeah. The Lord your God is with you, the mighty warrior who saves. He will take great delight in you. In his love, he will no longer rebuke you, but will rejoice over you with singing. That applause is for God. That applause is for God.
Y'all giving me too much time to prepare for this. Oh, that was an accident, like I said. Anyway.
Yeah,
I think I have too much credit. He sees it every day. I'm just kidding. It's awesome that he has it memorized.
It's a really good one for me. I love the idea that like, well, God is this mighty warrior. He looks after us. He sent his son to rescue us. And
that's in season 2. Stay tuned for season 2.
Spoiler alerts. And I also love the idea of God singing, like rejoicing over us with song. It's so cool to think that he rejoices and is so glad to see us come to him in a relationship and to seek his face.
I'm going to pull a Taylor on you. There's a psalm. I actually had to speak about it a couple years ago. I spoke about it in church, and I can't remember which psalm it was. I'm blowing my Taylor moment, but it was about being vulnerable with God, and there was a point in there where it echoed that sentiment of God singing to him, the writer of the psalm. It's such a beautiful thing, and that was one thing that jumped out at me. That's something we think about singing and praising to God, and it's so easy to think of God as a disciplinarian, right? And you've got to trust and obey, and those are important things. But he's also a comforter.
Yeah.
And to think of it, to just say comforter is one thing, but to think of it as how does he comfort in song like that is beautiful.
Yeah.
That was a correct answer, by the way. Good job.
I was going to say, I think like that's a nice transition because I have a verse in the Old Testament that's one of my favorites. It's a collection of verses, and it is in Psalms. And I looked at this question similar to Taylor, where I broke it into Old Testament, New Testament. But I also thought about what is my favorite verse or collection of verses in this moment, like in this chapter of my life, because I feel like other verses have spoken to me at different times. But right now, I really like Psalm 139, 7 through 12. And 139 as an entire chapter has just like really been good for my spirit. I started digging into it after just like a hard chapter for me and Taylor, and it's really helped me. But the verses that really move me almost every time I read it, starting with verse 7, is where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness will overwhelm me, and the light around me will be night. Even darkness is not dark to you, and the night is as bright as the day. Darkness and light are alike to you. And I just think that.
Did you memorize that one too?
Yes,
and that one's longer than Taylor. So hey, fantastic.
But I think it's just helped me realize, as a Christian, we're going to be in some dark times, and that's okay. Like God wants us to turn to Him, and we know that no matter where we are, whether it's like in the depths of Sheol or ascending to heaven, He is with us. So, yeah, I love those verses.
That's such a great point. And you're right. They echo each other very well. But that's something that comes up. It's been coming up over and over again, struggles. Everybody seems to be, maybe it's just the season of life that we're in, or maybe I've just been more aware or just paying attention more, I guess. But everything comes back to struggles. Everybody is struggling in some way, and that has been constant and forefront in a lot of conversations. I was going to mention this earlier. I forgot to mention it. Shout out to some of our friends. Kyle goes to church with us as well. He's got a podcast. I was actually on their podcast last night with our preacher, and a lot of it, we were talking about manhood, and a lot of it revolved around, struggling. I know Kyle's been going through his stuff. By the way, the name of the podcast is Leave It at the Table. If you guys want to go check them out, they show us a lot of love, and want to make sure we do the same. But yeah, that struggling thing, and I think this verse that you just recited, by the way, let's not forget that.
She could do the whole psalm, by the way.
Oh man,
she wouldn't say that, but
I'm not qualified for this show.
She could.
But one thing I keep coming back to is, you being thankful at the end of, all these struggles, there's so much behind them. There's so much to go through as far as long suffering, endurance, patience, and where I always seem to land is thankful, gratitude for those struggles, because you grow and learn so much, not just about yourself, but about God. Grow closer to God in some way.
I'll throw in another, going off this theme of like going through a struggle, coming out on the other side of a struggle. This process, which we call sanctification.
Big word.
Big words coming out.
That sounds like a great episode we should do.
So we were reading in the book of Job the other day, and we were both impacted by this verse in Job. I'll start with Job. This is chapter 23, verse 8. Starts, "Behold, I go forward, but he is not there, and backward, but I cannot perceive him. When he acts on the left, I cannot see him. He turns to the right, but I cannot see him. But he knows the way I take. When he has put me to the test, I will come out as gold." We were both reading that, thinking about just like reflecting on different tests and struggles that we've been in recently and just over the course of the life that we've been living in. That idea that like Job, who's of course just this example of immense suffering and affliction, who cries out and has lost so much in his life and is looking back and he's talking to his friends who are kind of turning their back on him. He's really struggling, and just that verse of like going through a test, coming out as gold. I thought that was a really powerful verse, and I was reminded of it when you were talking just now.
Yeah, I actually came across, I think it was Peter, and I'll get more into this later, but yeah, Taylor knows this, we've been talking a lot. I've been digging heavily into the Second Peter, his second letter, what he talks about divine nature, and going through each one of those attributes one by one. And I've gotten through almost all of them. I had to come back to faith. Faith is there's so much there, so much to unpack. But I can't remember if it was Paul or Peter. It was one of those two that was talking about just recently. Came across this verse where actually it was Romans. It was our study on Romans. Paul, where he count your, basically, I'm going to butcher, I'm not a good memorizer like you guys, but, take account of those various trials. Appreciate those various trials that you're going through, knowing that, you're being refined like gold. And then Peter has something similar. He says, your faith is more precious than gold. And they both kind of talk about that gold is refined by fire. Very similar to what you're talking about from Job.
Yeah, I think that's really well
said.
I'm about to make
somebody's been very quiet over here,
right.
Planning and scheming.
I want to hear Lacey's verse.
Well, I'll get to that in just a second, but I'm just gonna make him twitch a little bit.
Oh no!
There's a song. It's Brandon Lake and Jelly Roll.
And
cue the twitching.
That's the end of small group, guys. It was a fun run.
But like in the verse it says, faith isn't proven like gold till it's been through the fire. And so when y'all read that the song's
in the immoral words of the prophet Jelly Roll.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, so my favorite verse is Romans 8:28. And we know that all things work together for good to those who love the Lord, to those who are called according to his purpose. And just it's been my favorite verse for basically as long as I can remember. But it's just a beautiful as my toddler gets into the cleaning supplies. But it's just a beautiful reminder. It's a promise that if we follow the greatest commandment, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, everything's going to work out. And it's not going to be perfect. It doesn't mean we're not going to go through trials and struggles and all the things, but eventually everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, I think that's a great reminder. And like it has already worked out because of like Jesus' sacrifice for us. Like it doesn't diminish the pain that we go through in life. Like we go through painful stuff, but we already have hope because of what he's already done. Which
Absolutely.
So Lacey says Romans 8:28, which I think by now at least everybody in the family knows that's Lacey's verse, because every time it's brought up, everybody looks at Lacey. But just like kind of, here, I'm going to do this for Lacey. Squirrel moment. Something that, to our wedding day, I got Lacey a family Bible. And before giving it to her, or having someone give it to her, since we're separated before the wedding, I had sent it around to all our family members and had all our family members mark their favorite verse in it. And I've actually taken all the verses that they marked and I've put it in mine. So it's a neat little thing if you can do. I wish I would have thought to do this earlier. I was able to get my grandfather. I know his favorite verse. He's passed since, but I've taken it from the family Bible and I've marked them in my Bible too. So when I'm reading, it'll pop up. When I get through, we're going through Romans. We're together at church. We were doing a Romans Bible study, and sure enough, there's Lacey's verse. And it's a nice little thing when you're going through it, and just you see names pop up that make you think about certain people. So I've been very blessed by doing that. But anyway, there's a little life hack if anybody wants to try that.
Well, and one more thing. One thing that I have learned as I've gotten older is it doesn't necessarily mean that everything's going to be okay on this side of heaven. And I had a sorority sister. She was our chapter president. Absolutely beautiful, beautiful soul that passed away from cancer. Oh. But the day before she passed away, she texted a friend and said, healing is coming. And so that's, yeah, I didn't mean to.
No, you're great. No. Well, because all my answers are meaningless compared to that. I didn't go Old Testament, New Testament, but I have several verses. One, actually, this has been my favorite verse for probably the longest time. It's one I come back to, but it's a little different, I guess, in a way, because it's more about the tone of the verse. And all mine are New Testament, spoiler alert.
But do you have it memorized?
And kind of, because this one's in a song, so it makes it a little easier, but the song does phrase it different. This one's from Paul in 2 Timothy 2:12, the latter half of 12. He starts off, for this reason I also suffer, writing to Timothy, I also suffer these things, but, and here we go. It's the way he says this. And I think it's really my favorite verse, because I love the confidence, the wording of it. And it's like, this is something I'd love to be able to say and echo as firmly and resolute as Paul does here. I am not ashamed, for I know whom I have believed, and I am convinced that he is able to protect what I have entrusted to him until that day. And that, that gives me that whole notion. It's not just an encouraging thought, but it's a gut check. Am I entrusting him? Am I putting everything on my complete priority and focus on God? And can I say the same with such confidence? It's kind of like a gut check, but
I love that.
Yeah. And there's a song too that helps to memorize it. There's a song.
Is this a Jelly Roll thing?
No, I have never heard a Jelly Roll song in my life. I've heard so much about him. I feel like I should at least listen to something. I think it's kind of it's an old hymn. I'm all about the old hymns. Like your Old Testament, I'm New Testament. When it comes to music, Lacey is all the current Christian music, and I'm old hymns, old song books all day, every day. But
Excuse me, sir, but I also grew up on the Gaithers, so
Got me on that one.
I'm old school too.
But the song that it's in, the first line in it is very convicting to me. The chorus is based on this verse from 2 Timothy, but the first line is, I know not whom I have believed. Oh no, I know not why God's wondrous grace to me he hath made known. I'm going to have to sing it in my head to get to it. Nor why unworthy Christ in love redeemed me as his own. But I know whom I have believed and I am persuaded. But that whole thought of, Lacey and I have talked about this as far as, we've both kind of grown up in church. God has always been there. God's always been a part. Faith, which I'm going to come back to here in a minute, faith is always been there. There's been a little doubt creep in and, every once in a while but nothing serious, right? Where I really seriously question God or question whether there is a God. And then you see and you meet people that struggle and come to God later in their life, and you start to look at yourself like, man, I have been so spoiled. And I don't know why he made it so easy on me to know him, where you see you see all these other people that are struggling and in so many different ways, whether they're just rejecting God or not really being seriously pulled towards God. But Lacey and I talked about that, where you also think about that notion that he doesn't give us more than what we can bear. We must not be able to bear much, according to God, because he's made it very easy.
Very humble perspective.
Right. He's made it immensely easy for us. But like I've mentioned a couple times already, faith. I've been diving deep into faith. So 2 Peter, divine nature, I'm doing some writing on that. Taylor's critiquing me at the moment. As soon as I can finish the faith chapter.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing what you've got on that. I need to dig deep. It's there's a lot of amazing insight and just depth. I mean,
you can tell me it's boring. It's okay.
It's not.
I know it's very dense. I need to lighten it up a little bit. But so kind of going off favorite verses, this one's always kind of stood out to me in 2 Peter, first chapter. He talks about, hey, look at this. I've been working on it for a little over a year now, so I have no reason not to have it memorized by now. But if to be partakers, and I love how both his letters, he's kind of writing to a wide audience, where you almost feel like he's writing to us. You look at Romans and Paul's letters to specific groups. There's a little bit of, well, he's writing to the specific group about the specific thing, whereas Peter's letters are very broad and very approachable for me. But he talks about, to be partakers in this divine nature, and that whole notion, divine nature, is very fascinating to me. Kind of like Paul talks about the fruits of the Spirit, and he tells you the fruits of the Spirit are these, and he lays them all out. Peter kind of approaches it in almost a hierarchical way, where he starts with faith, supplemented to your faith virtue, and then supplemented to your virtue. Did I just mess that up? Wow, I just messed that up. Oh man, I can't believe I messed up. It's knowledge, I think. Let me double check. I'm about to. It's a long day, guys.
9 p.m. on a Friday.
Don't beat yourself up.
We've been partying hard tonight. I gotta pull up. No, I was right. Take that, Taylor.
Yourself.
Yeah. I did. It's also translated moral excellence, but supply to your faith virtue, into your virtue knowledge, and into your knowledge self-control, and into your self-control perseverance, and into your perseverance godliness, which is a very big one that I've realized I know nothing about godliness, like holiness, which is another topic we'll get into. Words we use all the time that we never really consider what they mean. Godliness, and then brotherly love, mutual affection, Philadelphia, and then into that brotherly love or mutual affection, love, from faith to love. And so like I said, I've kind of gone through. Last year, I wanted to devote 1 month to each one of those aspects. Faith started running into 2 months, so I had to just pull up, and I moved on. And so now I've come back to faith, and I've got to finish my study on faith here. But everything in that study revolves around Hebrews. This has become another favorite of mine. Hebrews 11:1 gives the best definition of faith, and it was a memory verse growing up. I don't know if y'all remember Hebrews 11:1, and we memorized it as faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Is that how y'all memorized it?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Right. Yeah. We were talking about this verse at church on a Monday night a few weeks ago with one of our church family members, and she brought up this verse. And yeah, I mean, I think it's, without going too much into, I mean, your exegesis of Peter here, but yeah, I mean, I think it is kind of that really, it seems mysterious at times to understand like how you get to a place of belief and faith. This is a broad topic that you're literally writing a book about, but
a chapter. That's just one chapter.
But I think being that concept of partaking in the divine nature, being conformed to the image of Christ, is another way to understand that, which Paul talks about in Romans, where like we are in this process of not only being obedient, understanding through suffering and challenges how to live in a more Christ-like way, but truly I go to this idea, which is talked about a lot in the early church, of theosis, union with God, which is like such a mysterious thing to try and even begin to like conceptualize in this life. Sabrina can talk to this. We just finished the other night with my grandparents reading, we finished the last chapter of the Gospel of John with them. We were reading through that again. Team John, beloved disciple, foot of the cross.
We'll get to that in a minute.
But we were reading...
Battle lines have been drawn.
That's right. We were reading John 17, and where Jesus talks about...
That's the prayer, right?
Yeah, the high priestly prayer.
Great prayer.
Oneness with the Father, and Jesus specifically praying for our oneness.
Yeah, those to come.
Right. And it can be like really mysterious, but like I do think it all ties together, this idea of being conformed to Christ's image. We fall, we pray that we will get back up and that tomorrow will bring us new graces. We pray that we will learn from the ways that we fall short, and we rely on the Holy Spirit to guide us in this stumbling process of partaking in the divine nature,
right?
Theosis, oneness with our Creator, which is our destiny ultimately.
Well, and it's the nature of theosis is so awesome to think about. Thinking about theosis, a divinity, a divine, just trying to grasp that really is difficult in itself, and much less the nature of it, But so these questions, and we've only gotten to one, and I realize that.
Yeah, we're going deep.
Yeah,
favorite verses sparked a good combo here.
Well, and as part of it is to, like I said, just kind of let some of our individuality show, and without getting deep into, like I said, our testimonies, but just kind of let our character kind of show through our choices and everything. One thing about me that's going to probably come up a lot is I have this fascination with language, meanings, and I feel like so much of our understanding and our even disagreements and debates boil down to definitions and meanings, and that's that rings true in this verse in Hebrews 11:1. Like I said, we grew up memorizing it. Like I said, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And like I said earlier, faith is one of those things that some of us, if we grew up in the church and it's one of those things you just know. It's just there. Like God, faith when you back out, and it's such a pivotal thing, a pivotal aspect of throughout Scripture. We are saved by grace through faith. Faith without works is dead. All those things, it all kind of revolves around faith. And so, as I've studied faith and looked into other translations, going back to the meaning of words, I've settled. So I actually made this chart, and I know this is audio only, but I made this chart of all of the translations. So when you take Hebrews 11:1, faith is the substance, that's a key word, of things hoped for. So substance of hope, evidence of unseen. If I break that down, substance of hope, evidence of unseen, there's I believe roughly 15 variations on substance of hope, blank of hope. And then there's 8 or 9 variations of the evidence of the unseen. And that was a quick count. I might be off a little bit on that. But so I looked at all those translations, and I've settled on NASB, Team NASB.
We love it.
It's crazy how if you just change one little word, how much more impact it can have, how much more meaning it can have. And like I said, I made this chart. I like to, do a little game where I let people, pick which word means more to you, which is more gravitas to you, and everybody comes up with different answers. Faith is the blank of of hope, the blank of the unseen. Where I land on it is faith is the assurance of hope, the conviction of unseen. That word conviction just, man, pulls so much. But those are things I think we really need to, consider. Stop and look at those things we take for granted: faith, God, Holy Spirit, worship, praise, honor, glory. Those words that you just get bandied about, willy-nilly. We sing them, but do we really know what we're singing?
Holiness
and godliness. We're running long already. I don't want to go on another tangent, but that's another. Those are 2 big ones that I have a whole exegesis on that too as well. But I've rambled on long enough on my answer.
No, that was great. I appreciate you pointing us to that verse. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. I think that it's so key to remember where we're headed on this journey. And it is towards ultimately being freed of the sin in the world that we currently are sick with. And it's a journey of moving toward being reunited with our Creator. And it's beautiful.
And I think it's a process. We declare our faith by saying Jesus is Lord. And that, is true for us. But time and time again throughout our lifetime, we're being tested with our trust. And so when, to go back to what we were saying earlier, when difficult things happen and we're in the middle of suffering, there's a moment that we can prove our trust in the Lord.
Yeah.
And even, Jesus, he was crying out, if it's unnecessary, if it's possible, take this cup from me. And so he shows that example of putting his trust in God. And I think that's a reminder for us that it's a lifetime process of being sanctified.
You're putting that hope. This is the last thing I'll say on it, because I definitely want to get to this. Well, I had several questions, but there's one question in particular I definitely want to get to. But exactly what Sabrina's talking about, the hope and the trust aspect, and Hebrews 11:1 says, of the unseen, the conviction of the unseen. That's become such a big, important thing for me. I read a book several years ago about a guy he was going to walk the Pentateuch, the first few books of the Bible, and just walk in those places and follow that trail. And he starts his book off. It was kind of a happenstance. I came across this book, and he starts it off the base of Mount Ararat.
Yeah.
And there's, where Noah's Ark is supposedly, if this is the actual Mount Ararat, is at the top of it. And nobody's allowed to climb it. There's only 5 people that are licensed, and basically 2 are in prison, 2 are dead. And then there's this one guy that he ends up meeting, and the guy tells him he has evidence of Noah's Ark. He's climbed the mountain, he's seen it, he has photos, he has evidence. And the writer of the book, Bruce, is basically, why don't you come forward with this? Like, this would prove the Bible that, and I don't even remember reading it, like getting excited that somebody out there has proof. But I had to check myself, because it was like proof that God exists, proof that I'm right. You grow up, you go through these disputes and these debates with other people, and you want nothing more than to just drop that bomb where you're like, oh, see, I'm right. Noah's Ark really exists. And I had to check myself, because obviously that's not the right way to go about it.
Right.
And that made me kind of dig deeper into that whole idea of unseen. Because you think about, what if somebody does come out with proof of something like Noah's Ark or the Ark of the Covenant, or whatever it is, proof that the Bible is real. And then you still have people that won't believe, but then you'll have a lot of people that might believe, but they're believing based on sight. And that's not what faith is, as Hebrews tells us. It made me take stock into, it's not about proving that I'm right. It's not about proving that God is real. It's about having that trust, like Sabrina's talking about, that trust and that hope that He is there. That's really where the power is of faith. And again, I didn't want to spend a whole night talking about that, but I just, that whole idea, we can probably dig into it later in another episode, of there's peace that comes with that, realizing that it's not about proving who's right and who's wrong. It's about just putting hope and trust into that unseen, that it's there.
Yeah, that reminds me very directly of another verse that we were talking about before this episode, which I mentioned.
Y'all need your own podcast.
No. This is a small group. Earlier I was talking about Zephaniah 3:17, but the New Testament verse that we were both thinking of, and Sabrina can talk more to this too, a verse that we both have really come to love and rely on, is in 2 Corinthians chapter 4. Verses
now you're speaking my language.
Here we go.
Greek.
It's verses 16 through 18, and it speaks to this idea of what is unseen and gets to faith. It goes, therefore we do not lose heart. For though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory which far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. What is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. And that, I mean, like, right? Like that's
I don't know how y'all keep all this stuff memorized.
It reminds me to what like Lacey was saying about the Romans 8 verse, and how we may not be satisfied, and most likely we're not going to be satisfied in this part of heaven, but the hope is on the other side. Like, I don't know, there's this theme of waiting that comes up a lot as a Christian, and I feel like sometimes we're in the middle of suffering, like everything else seems so hard, and so if we just remember like the waiting, I don't know,
the endurance, the patience,
yeah,
all those things that come with waiting. So that's the first question. I will wrap it up with one more question, and a kind of a lighter question, something we kind of mentioned earlier that's what we come back to. I do have a few more questions that we'll probably do a second icebreaker episode. This has been great discussion, because there's some deeper questions and stuff that I like to discuss. One that I do have an Old Testament answer for, and so I want to kind of keep pace with you. But we'll do that in a later episode, or our next episode. But we'll start wrapping it up with this question, a little lighter. What is your favorite book of the Bible? Which brings up a hot topic that has been raging throughout our group, not just here in our small group, but our congregation. Thanks to Taylor, who decided to just drop a bomb on everyone one Wednesday night.
Kaboom.
It's a great question, by the way. I think it's worth reliving. So you want to ask it? I'll butcher the question. It's kind of simple, but
yeah. The I guess the easiest way to say it would be as like a hypothetical. So you're entering a time machine. We'll leave the scientists to figure that out, and whether or not time machines are biblical, I don't know.
It's scientific. The speed of light. If we want to go down that route.
Oh my goodness.
But anyway, go ahead.
So without going too far in the weeds, basically, like the hypothetical is you're going into the distant future, and you get to take a single book of the Bible with you as a physical copy. You don't know what the future is going to look like. It could be, we kind of know what the future is going to look like in Revelation, but not exactly.
Spoiler, that's
Spoilers.
season 3.
So, but like you're going to the distant future, you're like, I need to share a book with people. You could think of it as like, I want also a book that I will have for my own sake. What's the book of the Bible you're carrying along?
Mm-hmm.
And that it's just like a fun way to engage sort of this idea of like what part of the Bible has been really meaningful to you? What book of the Bible do you think is really impactful in a specific way, either in your life or in the lives of others? Sharing the gospel, revealing to us how to live the Christian life. So that's kind of the hypothetical.
And to our listeners, like that's something to consider personally. It's a great question. It's even better when you're at church and you ask one person and they give an answer and somebody else walks up and then you're all kind of holding your breath to see what happened. So, because this is kind of what happened. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, Taylor started, it was after church. He asked somebody else. And then we started realizing everybody was picking one of two. And I got to say this. I love my wife. This speaks to her just wonderfulness. So, spoiler alert ahead if you want to pause and come back. But anyway, so he asked a question. We noticed you picked John, Taylor picked John, I picked John. Everybody was either picking John or Matthew. Everything was coming down to John or Matthew, and it was neck and neck. And so, somebody else would come in and, we're like 3 versus 3, 4 versus 4. And so we keep getting more people to try to break the tie. Everybody's going, John, Matthew. And then here comes Lacey, my wonderful, pure, sweet, just amazing wife, comes in, and you ask Lacey the question, and we're all waiting. Which team is she going to be on? And she goes, Philippians. No, dumbness.
Mark, right?
Mark.
Oh, was it Mark?
I like Mark.
But you were about to pick Philippians, right?
Philippians is a close second,
Okay.
but I would pick Mark.
So she's on her team all by herself.
Yeah, it's still a gospel.
Yeah.
So it's a great question. It's a great thought, too, to consider. But yeah, I love John. And not to get into another exegesis about logos. It's that first chapter of John blows my mind. I could spend all day talking about logos, but I won't for the sake of my wife.
Lacey,
She's heard too much about it.
Shout out to the Gospel of Mark, Lacey. I saw a funny Christian meme that was like a picture of like describing each one of the Gospels, and the picture for the Gospel of Mark was a cut from Mulan. It was like, let's get down to business.
Yes.
I was like,
you're speaking
we're
her
not
language.
wasting any time here.
Yes.
We're
Well,
hitting
and
it
that's why, okay.
straight on.
So I'm going
That's
to
how
go
I
ahead
feel
and give
about
my
John,
answer.
though. Although John's just... Oh, okay, right.
John makes my brain hurt a little bit. But Mark,
Well, you got to understand logos. So, I'm sorry.
Mark is very straight to the point. Just, Jesus did this, and then he did this, and then this happened. And there is no fluff. There is no, symbolism or anything. It is just black and white. This is what happened. He just recorded it, and I love it.
Yeah.
And I like Matthew. I like John some days. But just Mark just gets down to it.
Yeah.
But
Let's get down to business.
That's right,
that's the perfect meme for it.
To defeat.
But
Satan.
There
we go.
The devil.
But Philippians is a very close second.
Philippians great.
Philippians has all the good stuff. So
Philippians is kind of kind. I love James. James is a little brutal.
Yeah.
Like
James will hit you right in the gut. Yeah.
real quick, and I'm sorry. We're coming. I'm gonna let you finish that real quick. James is brutal. I love James, but he is blunt. And so I read a biography about John Adams, and I get a lot of John Adams vibes from James, and vice versa.
Interesting.
Philippians is like the kinder version of James. But anyway, go ahead.
So Philippians has be anxious for nothing. And, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, bring your requests known to God. And whatever is true, noble, right, pure, lovely, think of these things and be content. And for me to live is Christ and to die is gain. And he even says, follow my example. I can never say that. I'm such a do as I say, not as I do kind of person. And for
when I say that, I get in trouble though.
but yeah, so I love that so much for him to be able to say, like, follow my example. Like I'm,
to defeat the devil.
That's right.
Sorry, I can't unhear that now. It's stuck. No.
I'm going to pull up another verse from Philippians since it is so great. I believe
you don't have that one memorized, huh? You need to step up your game, sir.
We're in chapter 2. It is do nothing, verse 3, do nothing from selfishness or empty conceit, but with humility consider one another as more important than yourselves.
I take it back. I don't like Philippians.
That one is really like you're right, Lacey. There's some verses in Philippians that are like very like practical, like put this into practice, but also just they hit you. I'm like, I often think of myself in a way that like is above others. That's wrong. I shouldn't be doing that. But yet I often am like, I want the praise. I want the admiration. I it's something I struggle with. I think we all struggle with that in different ways. But yeah, there's so many like really good.
Not me. I'm the most humble person you'll ever meet.
There we go.
Just ask my wife.
But yeah, thank you for pointing out Philippians. That's great. Yeah.
I'm going to stick with John as far as to answer the original question is what's your favorite book? I'm going to stick with John as much as I went on a tangent about Peter a while ago, but I will say this about John and in the beginning was the Word and the Word was God. Just amazing. I mean, just to sit there and grapple with that. But there's something about when you read all the way through John, I love this. You watch The Office, the Office fans.
I am.
Sabrina loves it.
So
I'm not big on TV. We haven't gotten so much into like the personal thing. Like I will watch television. I will. But like it's like a 1 to 2 shows a year max for me, and then I just burn out on it too hard.
The Office is one of those you got to have in your repertoire. It's so good. But
I need to dive in.
Yeah, it's a classic. Anyway, it shows up especially in The Office, but it's like they're poking fun at a trope that you see all over. So Michael Scott in The Office, he's the boss. He does a movie called Threat Level Midnight. And they finally show the Threat Level Midnight episode, and there's a narrator through the whole movie, and then at the end, and it's Stanley's voice, if you know the show, it's Stanley's voice. But then at the end, there's a big, quote-unquote, big reveal where the guy narrating in the chair spins around, and it's Michael Scott, but it's Stanley's voice. And Stanley has that deep, sonorous, Morgan Freeman type voice, and that's the trope. It's like it plays on those old movie tropes of the narrator was the main character the whole time. That's the vibe I get from John.
Yeah.
So when you're reading John, it's like he keeps hinting at that disciple whom Jesus loved. That disciple. And then you get to the very end, and he spins in the chair, and Stanley says, by the way, that disciple Jesus loved, that was this guy, So that's another reason why I love John. But anyway, Sabrina, what's your favorite?
I did write down John, and I feel like this question, similar to the question about favorite verses, I feel the same way about it. Like right now, I think it would be either John or Psalms, but I wonder what it'll look like in a few years.
Yeah.
But Psalms has been very helpful. Taylor's been a big influence with Psalms. I think it's very practical for me, which may sound surprising because Psalms can be very poetic. But I think that like when I'm going about my day, it's helpful. And like depending on what the struggle is, depending on what the season is, you can turn to Psalms in any type of season, whether your heart posture is wanting to rejoice, or you're in the middle of suffering, or you're feeling angry, like whatever season you're in, you can find a psalm for it. And
Yeah.
I think that is just an example of how God is with us no matter where we're at.
Yeah.
Shout outs to our pastor, Matthew Morgan, who recently led us through a really good Wednesday night series on
I'm
Psalm
still
23.
grappling with that one, by the way.
Yeah, Psalm 23.
Yeah, that's a good
No,
one.
I was thinking the one right before that, the how to read the Bible,
Oh, yeah.
where you get through the poetry and the narration and the literature, all the different types.
Yeah.
I'm still grappling with that. That's so. That's a tough one. But it's great stuff. It's definitely stuff to think about. Psalms and Proverbs always get grouped together. You're talking about the practicality. I think I'm drawn more towards Proverbs because of the practical nature of that. But I think my biggest holdup with Psalms, and I'm not discrediting anything. I don't want anything I say to discredit any books of the Bible. I know we joke around, but Psalms, I never know who's talking. Is it David or
usually?
I need to know who am I listening to.
You say David, it's probably right.
Yeah,
not always.
Right, and I can never be sure like what moment in his life. It would help me to have some context. But there's a lot of good stuff. Again, I'm not discrediting, but I love Proverbs because it's a little less poetic and it's more
pithy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But New Testament all day. Are you going to stick with?
To be clear, Taylor and I are big fans of the New Testament as well.
For all of our listeners, we've been
Oy vey, right?
We've been really enjoying Job recently, though, which has been great.
Oh man,
doing a read through chapter by chapter during Lent this year, and it's been really impactful. And that's a good one.
That'd probably be another good question. Again, I know I said I was going to start wrapping this up, but
yeah,
what are the books that you grapple with the most? And I know Lacey talks about Revelations. Numbers.
I hate numbers.
Oh,
that sounds so bad. I'm so sorry, but numbers is so dry.
We need a disclaimer about we respect the Bible and the scriptures as much as we struggle with them sometimes. But so. That's interesting. So that's
numbers is tricky.
Revelation is usually the one that I hear most from, or used to hear most from her, as far as the ones she doesn't like it, kind of thing.
I like it, but I don't know. I feel like Revelation is just one of those things. It's kind of like dinosaurs. We will never fully know like answers to it, kind of thing. I feel like so many people have different theories on what this means and all the things. And I just need everybody to agree. My 9 is coming out. I need everybody to agree on what it means.
Yeah.
But no, numbers is just what, like when you try to like read the Bible straight through and you get to like Numbers and Leviticus, it's so dry. And it's all the lineages. And I know that you love that kind of thing. But
I like it for a time.
And the begots and just all the things.
I like to sit there and map it out. But past that, it's not like I'm going to relive Arphaxed begot Nophax and Nophax begot. But that's interesting.
That's just me.
Yeah. So numbers now. I just remember hearing about, exactly what you were just talking about with Revelations. Job is the one I struggle with the most.
Really?
Because if I'm being honest and objective, the picture of God in Job just does not, for me, and I don't want this to be discouraging to anybody. This is just something, just my take on it. I'm not discrediting Job. It's part of the canon. It's part of the scriptures. But the picture that is painted of God in that book just seems to not conflict, but go, it's different than the picture you get of God throughout the rest of the Bible. And that's where I really and where does it fall in the timeline? Like I've heard, and I think this is very interesting thought of it being right after the flood or right before the flood, something like that. But being probably one of the older books of the Bible, I think is very fascinating to think about. But just the image, the character of God in that is, I mean, I think it's important because it probably is revealing aspects of God, and it's not one of those things I don't want to think about God that way. It just doesn't seem to me fully connect with the rest of the. But that's just me. That's my take. Don't put stock into it. That's one of my questions for God.
I would wonder, and this is extemporaneous.
Word of the day, extemporaneous. And I just mispronounced it. And I don't know where my buttons are. Let's just see what happens.
Oh, no.
Oh, that's the wrong
Your
one.
tire's all flat and junk.
That kind of applied in its own way.
Did it? Hang on.
I don't know.
There it is.
There it is. I wonder if the reason, and this is speculative, but I wonder if the reason, or I'm getting off in the weeds on Job a little bit, but
only one word of the day at a time, sir.
I wonder if the reason that God's character in the book of Job seems maybe different from how we would look at God revealed as Jesus.
Yeah.
Is that Job's character as a human
right
is in many ways very different from a lot of the other characters we see in the Bible.
That's true.
Because there's so many people who are like obviously insanely flawed, and like you could point to dozens of reasons why they could have been tormented in the way that Job was tormented.
Yeah.
Not that they didn't suffer. I look at people like, David, right?
Yeah.
A classic example of someone who's just like, wow, his flaws are really on display here.
Yeah.
And he's making these really bad, sinful choices. And yet the book of Job describes Job as being just like this really righteous, upright man.
Yeah.
Who is suffering all these intense ways, experiencing his friends turning their backs on him. I wonder if it's that because of what the book of Job is showing us about trials, tribulations, suffering. I wonder if our perception of reading Job and what quote unquote God's character is revealed in the book of Job feels different because Job himself is different. Not making it that God's identity is at all dependent on what Job is doing.
Yeah.
But just to say that God's response to Job, or the debatably lack thereof for so long in his life, is quietness, whatever it may be, that Job is experiencing the suffering, feeling this longing, not getting responses from God, feeling like, where are you? Are you hearing anything I'm saying? Or, what did I do to deserve this? I wonder if that is why God feels quote unquote different. Good point. Because Job feels different.
Yeah.
He is this righteous man. He's not perfect. He's a human.
Yeah.
But he's suffering it, and he's suffering in a way that, I see Job as like really one of the characters in the Old Bible that prefigures the suffering servant of Christ in one of the most clear ways.
Right.
Job is not righteous in the way that God is righteous, the way that Christ is righteous, but he is surely, based on the account of Job itself, from a human perspective, quote unquote, undeserving of what's happening to him.
That's a very good point. And I should have led with this as a disclaimer, is I haven't really given Job a whole lot. I've tried to, we've read through it, and and I've struggled, and I guess I struggle more with the whole interaction between God and the devil kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
That part is where I don't, but it's like there's other parts of the Bible where there's the nature, going back to the nature of Theos, the nature of God is shown, and where he's having to be reminded, it seems like, by Moses not to kill all that. You just brought these people out of Israel just to kill them. What would they say? And it says God is reminded. There's certain parts throughout the Bible that are just seem to be odd and stand out, and it's kind of hard to grapple with at times with your notion of God. But you take that, to me, like Job is a full book of that. And so those little moments, you get that full book. So
Yeah.
So we've got John, Philippians, favorite book, and then Psalms.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Those are, I think, strong candidates.
So if you read nothing else this week,
Just go read the whole Bible. Just go dive in.
go pick out your
Except
favorite.
numbers. Just skip over it. It's fine.
So we got through 2 questions. So this is an actual small group. That's how Bible studies go, right? You get hopefully through 2 questions. But we're gonna end it there. Our first episode. We're finally doing it, guys. We've been talking about this for months.
This is awesome.
And we're finally doing it. So we really appreciate everybody that is listening, and
Thanks, Mom.
Shout outs.
That list is long. We need a whole nother episode for shout outs, but we finally got that first one done. We'll continue. We'll probably do our next episode. There's still some good questions I want to continue on. We've got so much material, so much stuff to talk about. We will get focused on particular topics. What's another thing? We're going to be probably more topic oriented here at first. We may get into like dissecting books and going, doing series and stuff like that. But we want to probably going to stay more topic focused like we've done tonight. And we will have guests. We'll have, like I said, we'll be more dissecting what are other people saying, and dissecting what are they saying, and how should we take that, and how should we navigate these different things in our everyday life. But anyway, we're glad you joined us tonight. Stay tuned for more focused episodes, hopefully. So
this is great. Thank you. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank y'all.
Yeah, I really am glad that this is kicked off. I think free flowing discussion tonight, which I think is a good way to open up.
Yeah.
Just people getting a feel for like where we've been reading recently in the Bible, things that are meaningful to us.
And hopefully it spawns some interesting thoughts, and whoever's listening, you can get so topic heavy sometimes, and you're focused on like faith, and we want people to really think about faith, and hopefully some of our discussion did that tonight, but hopefully we hit something else that sparked an interesting thought or consideration. But before we wrap up, I do want to get some shout outs. Kyle Wright, like I mentioned earlier, was on his podcast. Show him some love, gather around the table. He's done a lot for us to get this started. Oh my goodness, I said gather around. That's my brother's podcast, by the way, if you want to go check that out. Gather Around Table Talks. But yeah, leave it at the table. Kyle Wright, he's done a lot behind the scenes to get us going, get us started, and I really appreciate that. So anyway, thanks for joining us tonight. We'll see you on the next episode.